What's happening here? What can it mean? This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
This week we're going to cover down the side of our house. We've been wanting to do this for a long time but just never had the chance. So we've taken a week off work and got some decent weather. We thought we'd get started. And then this happened. It was a little bit too windy to have a tripod up and I certainly learnt my lesson. But after a glass of wine, Chinese and a good sleep, we carried on with the next day. Once we worked out where everything needed to go, we fixed some 6x2 timbers to the side of the house. I used some grab adhesive for some extra strength and staggered the bolt every foot with 2 at each end. I obviously didn't do all this on my own. I did have some help from my stepson. I managed to get myself in some slightly awkward situations, but it did make us laugh. On the other side, we fixed some 8x2 timbers onto the fence. We then began cutting down all the rafters to size, each one having a slight angle on each end. Then we had to go along each of the ledger boards and mark up exactly where every single joist was going to go. Now this part's really important because we've ordered the polycarb at 2.1 metres, so every rafter needs to be perfectly placed, as there'll be a glazing strip to join each polycarb sheet together. We then began hanging all the rafters, and we did this by screwing them into the joist hangers. We just put up the rafters that we're going to have the glazing strips on. This is a glazing strip here, and we started off by just putting those ones up first, and this is how it looks after day 2. So thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Welcome back to part 2 of building a roof down the side of my house. Now before we get started, I'm going to use this just to answer a few questions that I've had on my previous reel. Now what we've actually used here are rafter connectors, not joist hangers, so I do apologise for that. But as we're only putting a polycarb roof on here, they are sufficient to hold the weight of the roof. Do we need planning permission for this? No, we don't. You can find all the information online regarding planning permission, but I've added some here if you'd like to read it. And the extractor vent will get taken out, but we can't do that at the moment. We are aware that the boiler flue currently is too close to the roof, but we haven't extended so it will comply to regulations. And yes, of course we'll be putting guttering on the roof. Now let's get back to the build. We've added the remaining rafters into the rafter connectors and screwed them all in. And here's how everything looked after day 3. I then run a string line down where I wanted the noggins to go, just to give me a guideline. I then cut each of the noggins down to the same size for each of the gaps that I was filling between the rafters. This then ensures the rafters stay as parallel as possible. Some areas were a little bit tricky to work in than others, and I found myself in some slightly awkward positions, and quite often found some muscles that I didn't realise that I had. There were a few rafters that had a slight twist in them, so there was a little gap at the bottom like you can see here. So to fix this, I pulled out the 2 bottom screws, then I used 2 clamps together to pull in the bottom of the rafter, and gave it a good squeeze to close in that gap. I then added in an extra screw at the bottom to hold it in place. Because I tightened up the clamps so tight, I found it a little bit tricky to get them off, so I just tapped them with a hammer and they just popped off. I was feeling quite pleased with myself at this point. I then went ahead and did exactly the same at the back. So I'm now at the end of day 4, could be 5, but this is the end result. All the noggins are in, everything's ready, just waiting for the polycarb. Thanks for watching. Hi everyone, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the roof. We've had a few delays because we're waiting on the polycarb to arrive. We've also been waiting for the boiler flue to be moved before we can put the polycarb on. So I've basically just got on and oiled everything. Even though this is a pressure treated wood, I just wanted to give it an extra little bit of protection just to make sure it's going to last us for many, many years to come. So I'm just having a break between the coats of oil and thought I'd just sit and feed the fish for a little while. So whilst I was having my little break, I got a call from my boiler man. He is going to be here on Friday to get the boiler flue moved, and the polycarb is arriving tomorrow. So it's all good news. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to clear down here. This is where my workshop's going to go later this year. And I just need to clear the weeds. Don't you just wish it was that easy? So the polycarb's finally arrived. It's all been delivered today. It's a 16mm multi-wall polycarb, so it's going to give plenty of light into the area. Oh, and my project manager's just popped down just to check out the delivery, and yep, it all seems fine. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Welcome back to part 4, where unfortunately the weather has caused more delays. We have, however, managed to get our boiler flue moved, courtesy of our lovely boiler man Gary, who made some large holes and had some trouble with some rebar. But that's all now sorted, so we're ready to move on with the polycarb. So we sealed the top end with the aluminium tape. This stops any water getting in. And then sealed the bottom edge with the anti-dust tape. This allows the polycarbs to still breathe, but stops the dust and the bugs from getting in. We then got on with putting the first polycarb sheet up. It was a little bit awkward because we only had a small gap, but with a few of us it managed to go up okay. I left the protective film on underneath because I didn't want to scratch the polycarb while we were putting it up. So we had a bit of fun pulling it all off. I had a few minor adjustments to make with the glazing bar and then had to climb up onto the roof to get it all fitted. And I laid down to try and spread my weight out a little bit just so I didn't damage the roof. I'm using these polycarb fixing buttons which need to be pre-drilled to fit into the polycarb. They've got a foam gasket underneath to keep the water tight and then a top cap just to cover them up. So I started working from the top of the sheet so I knew it would move around, and I took the film off as I went. So when I got right to the bottom, I pulled the rest of the protective film off, got the last 3 fixings in place, and that's all we can get done for now. There will be a white plastic end capping going along the bottom edge. This will just finish the bottom edge off nicely, cover up the blue tape and just give it a bit of protection. So at the end of this week we should be able to get the rest of the polycarb sheets up. Then I'll just need to work on the flashing, the guttering and the fascia for the end piece. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Welcome back to part 5, and it's time to get the rest of the polycarb up. So let's get it all unpacked and let's go. We carried the rest of the sheets up through the front of the house because we found it a little bit easier this way. I only had one piece to cut out, and that was around the soil pipe. So you can see this here. Then I covered all the edges with the foil tape. There will be a flashing tape on top, but I'll show you when I do this. So once each section was fixed down, I went along the bottom edge and fitted the plastic trim. And this just finishes it off nicely, although it was a little bit tricky to fit. So with the rest of the sections, we decided to put each piece up and get all the taping and cutting done whilst we were up here. It's made it a little bit easier because taking them down and putting them back up again was really hard work. So we've been able to get them up, put them in place, screw them all down and then just cut off the bottom. And while I was up on the roof finishing off each section, my lovely helpers were getting the next section ready for me. So as you can see here, I'm just cutting off the excess of each panel. I've allowed a 4cm overlap all the way down, and this will allow for any rainfall to go straight into the guttering, once it's up of course. So the last piece was the only piece that we needed to cut down completely. I changed over to a fine tooth blade on my saw because it gave me a much smoother cut. Now the roof's all finished, I've gone along the edge that joins it to the house with a clear flexible sealant. This will just give it a bit of extra protection before we put the flashing on. So all I've got left is to put the guttering on, the flashing, and then down the far end where the gate is, I just need to put a fascia board just along here. Thanks for watching.
So this is where we are so far. It's all done, all the roof's up, it's all sealed. Just have to do the flashing on top of the polycarb onto the wall. And then on the outside of the fence, we've got guttering up there. And then on the end, we need to enclose it. I'm going to get some composite, I think. Not sure exactly what we're going to do with that yet, but we'll just seal that up. It's not going to be a completely sealed area. There's still gaps in the fence. But earlier today it will go up to 33, 34 degrees in here. It's currently on 27 degrees, which is a little aquarium thermometer, just taking the air temperature. So these should be growing well in the heat. It's currently 25 degrees, I think it is in the pond. This has been fed, as you can see, got an auto feeder up. Using a Nutrimar food in that. Getting fed 4 times a day at the moment. Down the bottom. It's too much glare to see. Let's go that way around. The glass is a bit dirty. But yeah, all in all, done a really good job. Please follow Emma's channel on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Obviously Scott's as well on Podponics, same channels. So it should be done and last a good few years. Thanks for watching.